Hello, Senator Paul. Darrell Walters here. I just wanted to briefly discuss the endorsement of Mitt Romney that you gave last week. And I just wanted to note that as well, I've also listened to the interviews that you gave to Kurt Wallace and to Peter Schiff, and have considered those. I must say that anyone thinking of having any violence against you, that should be completely out of the question. If any of those people are watching this right now, should completely forfeit that notion altogether. That's silly. It's not any way to get anything done. But still, I want to go through the endorsement and give my opinion. And let's start first by watching the clip where you first begin to list the issues in which you and Governor Romney agree on. We'll skip the first part of the interview where you discussed the equivalence in the number of children between the Romney and the Paul family. So we'll start out first with this clip about the Federal Reserve.
And we talked about a lot of issues. It was a free-ranging discussion, and we talked about issues, frankly, that are important to me, that are important to my dad and to many of his followers. And many of these, Governor Romney's already taken a position on. One of the big issues for our supporters, for myself and my dad, is auditing the Fed. We think there needs to be more transparency to the Fed and more oversight by Congress. And this is something that Governor Romney was supportive of throughout his campaign, and also was supportive of in private to me.
And Senator Paul, here's what Governor Romney has had to say in the past.
What's your position regarding Ron Paul's efforts to audit the Federal Reserve?
I'll sign one of those. Well, the Federal Reserve is audited, I presume, by independent auditors. The question is really, should the Congress oversee the Federal Reserve? And it does to a certain extent. But I do not want to have the Congress calling the shots for the Federal Reserve.
So in that clip first, Romney shows his ignorance of the Federal Reserve System and how it is not independently audited. And then he goes on to say that he does not wish to see any more congressional oversight or calling any shots or anything like that, which is complete disagreement with what you just said in the previous clip. So let's go ahead and continue with the next point.
We talked about other issues that are important to my dad's followers. My dad has a legion of young followers who are on the Internet, and they think they rule the Internet, and maybe they do, maybe they don't, but they're very concerned about the freedom of the Internet. There's been legislation recently, SOPA, that Governor Romney came out in the debates and was opposed to this SOPA, which would take away some of the process of ownership on the Internet, and we were very afraid that it would limit Internet freedom, and Governor Romney's right there with us on those issues also.
Hello, Senator Paul. Now, you know as well as I do, as far as SOPA goes, that at the time that was the most expedient thing to do for one's political career, was to go ahead and get against SOPA, get off the bandwagon if they were, and oppose it. So that issue doesn't even need to be addressed. You know as well as I do that had the people not stood up against that tyranny, that it would have never got shot. It would have passed through, and it would have been, something that was completely pushed under the rug and never even talked about, until it came up in a civil court or something like that. So anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next point.
Another big issue for me is the REINS Act. I'm the chief sponsor in the Senate on a bill that would say that any major regulation, and I think we've got so much over-regulation now, but any major rule or regulation that would cost the economy over $100 million should have to come back and be voted on in Congress.
Senator Paul, now the REINS Act, which you just described, which you're a big proponent of, is completely based in flawed philosophy that the solution to big government is more big government. Let's add more red tape, to the regulation. Now, in principle, I agree that the regulators don't have enough knowledge a lot of times, working knowledge to actually regulate these things. They don't know what's realistic. Well, the problem with it is you don't know what's realistic either, and we can't assume that the Congress has the ability, to have that knowledge. And anytime those type of hearings do come up, it's always the people from the big companies that get to testify before Congress. It's their people that get to say what's good and what's bad. So as far as Congress being able to oversee the regulations, that's kind of silly. And like I said, the solution, to big government is not more big government. Oh, it's simply a lack of oversight in the oversight. I mean, that's what's terrible. It goes on ad infinitum. These people are regulating, and it's costing us money. They're a government agency overseeing a sector of the economy, and now let's oversee them, to make sure they don't do anything. But then, we may need somebody, if we start to manipulate, for some reason there's somebody in the Congress that now has power over these people, and the economic sector can now interact that way too, through that channel. Now they need oversight as well. So you can keep just saying it's a lack of oversight, it's a lack of oversight, lack of oversight, when in reality, it's too big government. And we just need to get government out of it in the first place. You know this as well as I do, and it's a silly assumption to think that is that's a possible solution. You're just going to cost us more money, is all you're going to do by doing that. So let's move on to the next issue.
I think one thing that Governor Romney would make as a president is he would bring a more balanced approach to regulation. We're going to have some regulation. Some regulation actually protects the environment.
Well, Senator Paul, as a scientist, I will agree that some regulation protects the environment. But however, a lot of these things could be dealt with in court. The whole Aaron Brockovich story is a good example. But as soon as those types of things happen, the government feels like they have to get involved. They use it as a platform, to get their constituency fired up, and then they get in there and they do whatever. They use it as an excuse to have something to do. The government does. Whenever really these things could just be handled through precedent. From litigation, rather than strict oversight like that. Now, it should be the company's responsibility. See, because right now you're placing what should be the responsibility of the company on the consumer. Okay, so the taxpayer. So we're the ones that consume, all these goods that are providing you with this wonderful tax money that you refer to later on in the interview. So anyways, we pay bureaucracy to put these regulations in, and then these companies follow the regulations, and at the cost of the business, the price goes up. So now not only are we stuck with having to pay the taxes to support the bureaucracy, now we also have to pay higher prices at the pump or whatever. It's a two-headed sword. We're getting hit from both angles. We're getting hit from you guys and from the companies. And then anytime something really does disastrous occur in the environment, it essentially gets ignored. A lot of the the fishermen around the Gulf region, their lives have been altered indefinitely. I mean, for the rest of their lives, they're not going to be able to have the quality of fishing that they had before. I mean, and that's just part of the fact. It's part of the big deal down there that they use dispersants and that. I'm a chemist, and the most convenient place for that oil to be, as far as taking care of it, would have been on the surface. You can't deal with it whenever you add surfactants to it, which are simply just essentially like just your soap. So what it does is it makes that oil partially soluble. So now you have, little oil droplets with the surfactant surrounding it, all the way, in the ocean, just floating around, being consumed by fish. All this. These are, and as they break down, these molecules are going to be, are fat soluble molecules. So I mean, you're going to end up with bio collection because they're not water soluble. They're naturally going to try to go to a fatty, more fatty environment. And that fatty environment, guess what? It happens to be wildlife, and that's going to be the ultimate result of using the surfactants in the Gulf. Horrible bird-brained idea. Whoever thought of that? The scientist that came up with that. I'll tell you right now, you're an idiot. I hate to call names, but the scientist that chose to use dispersants in the Gulf was completely. They were thinking nothing about except for the bottom line. And the company should have been punished severely. All the companies that were involved in that. But it was mostly a slap on the wrist compared to probably what it should have been. And that's the truth about how important the environment is. Whenever it comes to people that have their buddies, and political clout, they're in big industry and they have enough power and money and say so, and enough friends around, to wield a little bit of authority, or a little bit of political sway. Then they can get by with it and just get a slap on the wrist. So that's really how much they care about the environment. And so to really think that when put in a pinch, the government has no care about the environment at all in those kind of situations. They play it lip service and give a little slap on the wrist. How can we expect that body of people to hold people responsible for things? That's silly. And then us pay for it. Anytime something big comes up, they're just going to turn face on it. No, that's absolutely silly. So that whole regulatory process should be a natural result of of our justice system, of our litigation. The litigation against companies that do those type of things. If the state has to sue somebody, all the states, the Gulf states, should get together and sue those companies. That should be the proper scenario. But anyways, let's move on.
The energy industry, the oil and gas industry, employs 9.2 million people and pays $86 million a day in taxes. And I want to encourage them to produce more oil and gas in our country. These are good American jobs. These are jobs that can't be outsourced. Energy jobs are great for our country, and I know Governor Romney will allow the Keystone Pipeline to occur.
Now, Senator Paul, what really threw me off right there was your seemed lust for tax money. As a limited government conservative, as you'd like to call yourself, a small government conservative, you shouldn't be bragging about the amount of tax money you get from a particular sector. That just seems, a little backwards from what you supposedly represent yourself to be. And as far as saying Governor Romney would let the Keystone Pipeline occur, now that's fine. You're coming from the angle that Obama would not let it happen, but also it also hints of the arrogance that, oh, I will allow you to do this. I'm the federal government. I'm the master here. Oh yes, humble people of the world, we grant you our permission to proceed. Now, as far as the Keystone Pipeline goes, I'm not opposed to it, or necessarily, for it or against it. But I do believe that it should be a states' rights issue, and not only that, but the property owners that will be affected, by the pipeline. I don't think eminent domain is necessarily a very good thing. I think it's one of those remnants left over from when we were dominated by England. Eminent domain is kind of a bad deal. So anyways, it's silly, like I said, kind of arrogant to say that Romney could just let the Keystone Pipeline go. That should be between the companies and the property owners and the states that are affected. So anyways, I guess that concludes, what I wanted to say about your endorsement as far as the clips go. But I wanted to add something. One thing that wasn't said, but is definitely an issue, was that this endorsement came just, the next day after your father's campaign sent out the email that he was that the delegate situation appeared to be that he didn't have enough to win, and that was the conclusion that was drawn there, and that's fine. If that's truly the case, if that's what happens, so be it. Us in the Liberty Movement, we put up a hell of a fight, and we're not gonna feel bad about ourselves. But however, you seemed rather eager to come on. I mean, the next day, now, why couldn't you tell the establishment, out of respect for the Liberty Movement and out of respect for my father, I'm going to refrain from giving my endorsement until after the convention in Tampa. That should be fine. I mean, why not? I mean, if the delegate situation is as they say it is, then Romney has nothing to worry about, and it's no big deal. But anyways, you decided to come on eagerly, like I said before, and endorse Romney. So you seemed a little too eager to play ball, and so it really hints towards the motives that really underlie your actions, in my opinion. And those actions are to deflate any show of dissent at the Republican National Convention, and to limit the numbers of any delegates, that are, still to be chosen, through the delegate process. So, because you knew that whenever you did this, that you would somewhat deflate, take the wind out of the sails, a lot of these Paul delegates. But I'll tell you right now, if I were these Paul delegates, and if any of them are listening right now, if I were you, whenever you get to the Republican National Convention, show your numbers at some point. You should definitely, do like the folks, I believe it was in Louisiana did. Get up, turn around, and face the opposite direction. When Romney gets on stage, everyone just get up and face the opposite way. Let them show that on national television. Let them see our real numbers. Regardless whether they can coerce our vote, or whatever, is a completely other situation, which they cannot do legally. So I say vote as you will and continue your fight. Now, I will not condemn Ron Paul for Rand Paul's endorsement. I'm not a collectivist. I believe in individual responsibility and individual accountability. Rand Paul is completely an independent agent from his father, and he can do as he so chooses. And I will not hold it against Ron Paul. Now, if Ron Paul endorses Governor Romney, then I will say the same thing to him. I'm a candid person, and I'll be completely open about it. But Rand, you shouldn't have been so eager to go and support Romney. People do have a right to be upset with you. But however, I wish you no harm, and anyone out there that's thinking about harming you should definitely think about things for a while before they jump to any harsh actions. That's completely silly. And I do think that you're somewhat a liberty-minded person. You're not the most liberty-minded person, Rand. And if a more liberty-minded person comes up against you, of the people in Kentucky vote you out. And like I said, I'm not a collectivist. I'm not going to be for you or against you because you're your father's son. It's your own actions that determine my opinion of you and the opinion that your constituency will have of you. And remember, you rode the Liberty Movement to success to get into the Senate. So if you plan on depending on us in the future, then I hope you'll treat us a little bit better and have a little bit of respect for us. You should have waited till after Tampa.
I'm on my way to Wolfboro. That's going to be it's going to be a big time on the lake tomorrow. Alrighty, bye-bye.
Abolish the Federal Reserve, yes or no?
Thanks, guys. No.